Hello there. This is Sarah Nadler from Silken Management Group, and I just wanted to speak to you guys today. We're going to be talking about how do you build a successful and exclusive relationship with your general practitioners and other affiliates to really start bringing in new patients for specialists. Now, if you're familiar at all with Silken, then you'll know that I put on a referrals workshop every probably a month or so right here in Portland, Oregon at Silken Management Group's Academy. But we've never really done a specialist workshop. And as you guys know, if you are a specialist, that there's actually something quite different about specialists in the way you get referrals. They don't generally come specifically from other patients or past patients. They come from general practitioners or sometimes affiliate marketing partnerships, by which I mean, the parenting association in your town brings you patients, or maybe you have a good relationship with the local mom and pop shop and they send people to you. Those are sort of affiliate marketing partnerships that you don't always think of. So again, I'm just going to bring these things to mind, let you guys know what there is that you might find useful if you're not already using it. So before we really get into this, I wanted to define marketing. As you may know, again, if you're familiar with Silken, I actually deliver a free marketing analysis to clients when they're first coming on board. And one of the questions I always ask is, what is the definition of marketing? And in my experience, most practice owners can't really define it. So I'm going to go ahead and define it right here because this is a term I'm going to be using a lot throughout this workshop, and it's very important for people to know what it is I'm talking about. Marketing is all the ways in which you conceive of, package up, and deliver a product or service to your public, meaning the people that you are servicing. Now, again, marketing, it's a broad subject. It's all the ways in which you think of something. So even the very first moment of your life when you decided you wanted to become a dentist or become a veterinarian or an optometrist, etc., that moment was actually your very first marketing decision on the path that would later lead to your career. So marketing is a broad subject. Today we're only going to be talking about really a target market. And now, what is a target market? A target market is the group of people at whom you're aiming all of your marketing efforts. So in this case, we're going to be talking about the target market of other general practitioners, not exactly the patients themselves. So for an average dentist, their target market might be, people who have teeth. I mean, that's pretty much anybody in that category could go to a dentist, right? But as a orthodontist, you have a more specific target market. You have, parents of children ages 8 to 18. That would be one target market. And you also have a completely different target market of young professionals of an entrepreneurial mindset who want to increase their appearance or improve their appearance so that they can increase their income. Or celebrities have a similar mindset, right? They're trying to have a beautiful smile so that they can win when they go to rehearsals, etc. So really defining your target market is important only because different people respond in different ways to the same message. So you want to make sure your message is aimed directly at the right target market. So in this case, if you're asking a referral of a patient, you're going to speak to them very differently and use different words and really even maybe push a different message than you would if you're asking a referral of a general practitioner who is generally speaking probably more educated on the subject at least, and you can use larger terms. You can also, be probably a little bit more frank about what's happening medically, etc. So there's just a different way you're going to speak to different markets, and it's very important to know that who your target market is before you start trying to send a message to them. All right, so let's take a look at what is this rollout. When we start to really build a referral program for specialists, what is it that we're trying to do? Well, the very first step is you need to find a need. Who needs specialists? Obviously, general practitioners need specialists, but there's probably other people out there as well, such as, parent-teacher associations, things like this. They might need to know who the best optometrist is, who the best orthodontist is, You also might have counselors, people who, physical therapists, etc. If a person has been through an accident and has dental work that they need, a reconstructive dentist might contact physical therapists and say, hey, let's build up a referral program out of that, right? So really taking a look at and surveying and researching who needs your services can help you to then define who would be the best referral sources for you. And you might come up with some unique ones that your competition aren't necessarily using. The next thing we have to do is create desire. So maybe you found that they need you, but they don't want you. They don't want a referral program with you, or they've never even considered it. So you need to design and package a reward program of some kind to attract those people to send you referrals rather than your competition. And then, of course, there's the delivery of the service itself. As a specialist, it's very important that you maintain good relations with your general practitioners and your other referral sources, treating their patients well, delivering smiling, friendly service to them if they ever call or come to you asking for some assistance or direction or communication. When they're asking what's happening with their patient, you want to be prompt about answering and be very friendly and polite to them. So again, all of these things really tie into how we make a very successful referral program for specialists. Now, one of the things that I really like to stress when I'm delivering my referral workshop here at Silken is that the people you're speaking to, your target market, you're trying to turn them into brand ambassadors for your practice. So when you're asking someone to do a referral, you're basically handing them a flag of your nation and saying, hey, I want you to carry this flag into foreign countries and represent me, represent our practice to your patients. So it's important to have that attitude, because how do we treat ambassadors? Well, generally speaking, ambassadors are quite highly paid. They're also given an enormous amount of respect, and they're given a lot of leeway when they're in other countries. And the reason for that is because they are overcoming objections for you. They are, leading the charge into society for your brand. And so it's very important to treat them that way and give them the tools that they need. Give them brochures about your practice, business cards if they ask for them, referral cards, something that they can give to the patient to answer their questions, etc. Maybe there's an exclusive place on your website for the general practitioner who wants to deliver some communication to you, etc. Or maybe gain communication or gain information about your practice, etc. So it's very important to treat them well and really assign to them that they are becoming a part of your practice by doing this. And of course, we want to reward them. All right, so let's really break this down. Step one, if you had to just from scratch begin to build a referral program where you had never had one before, what would you start with? Well, the very first thing I would have you start with, if you were my client, is I would have you name the exact characteristics of your ideal patient and client. The reason why we do this first is because this is going to help you on the next step where you try to figure out who would be the best referral sources for you. You have to know where those people are going and where they're likely to be. So really name this out. What are ideal characteristics for you? If you're, again, as a reconstructive dentist, maybe it would be a person who has had an accident, or people who, have in the past not been able to take very good care of their teeth, and so now they need to be replaced. So those are like basic target market kind of questions. But you also have to look at what makes a patient ideal to match your practice. I mean, I'm sure you probably want patients who pay their bills. You probably want patients who show up on time, patients who treat you and your staff with respect. These kinds of characteristics are also important to write down, because if you find that one source of referrals gives you lots of referrals but does not give you ideal patients, then that may not be somewhere you want to concentrate your efforts. Now, the next step, once you've named out who your patient is to really discover and brainstorm, where are those people? How can I find them? How can I connect with them? As I said, if you're dealing with people who have had an accident, physical therapists or EMTs might become referral sources for you. Counselors, therapists, things like this. You have to kind of think outside the box here. As an orthodontist, you know, it's not just general practitioners, dentists. It could also be parenting associations or parenting groups on Facebook, or you know, soccer moms and and things like that. You know, these children themselves could even be your referral source, you know, making them brand ambassadors so that they tell their friends about you, and then their friends' parents have the opportunity to bring them in. So these are the types of things that you want to think about, of really figuring out what your target market is and figuring out outside the box, thinking of different ways in which you can get in front of them. The next step I would do is I would assign someone within your practice to run this referral program. When you assign someone to be responsible for the program, it's going to do so much better than if you're trying to do it in your spare time, or you have 5 or 6 people who are all just sort of pitching in whenever they can. You know, they say it takes a village to raise a baby, but I've never found that to be a successful practice in business. Businesses seem to do well when there is one person assigned to be responsible for something, and of course other people can contribute, and they should. But let's just find one person whose job it is to contact those general practitioners and find new affiliates, to think outside the box and be constantly on the alert for new practitioners moving into town, or changes in staffing at a practitioner's office, that type of thing. And then staying on top of your rewards program and making sure people get rewarded when they should, and it doesn't take forever, because that can often sour that source and make them no longer want to refer. And then lastly, of course, they should be responsible for tracking your new patients and making sure that that graph is going up and up and up, and changing something if it's not. All right, now let's talk about rewards and how we establish these. Rewards are very important when it comes to referral program because they help you overcome objections, but really I want to point out that they're not the only reason people refer to you. People refer to you generally, and again, this is surveyed information that we have found after speaking to your patients, patients of our clients, etc. People refer to your practice because they want to support your unique brand of healthcare. They think that you're practicing best medicine, and they want it for their family and friends. And they also like you, and they want to support you in your growth and expansion. So remember that it's okay to ask them and tell them that they're helping you, and ask for their assistance in that manner. But you also want to reward them. And the reward is really the acknowledgement at the end, and the show of gratitude for what they have done. So how do we really establish a correct reward and what it is that we should be offering? Well, the best way to do this is to use surveys. First of all, don't just survey the practice owner. When you find a GP and you're trying to connect with them, you have to realize that in some practices, especially the larger ones, it's not actually the doctor themselves who's always making the referral. Sometimes that decision maker is really the front desk person or a technician. Sometimes it's the practice owner. Maybe in a 4 or 5 doctor practice, every single doctor there is making a different decision of who to refer to. So it's important to survey your general practitioner practices and ask who is the decision maker, and then ask that person what they would want in exchange as a reward for bringing in a referral. Now, again, sometimes you have to use your judgment here, because it may be that the general practitioner is not the final decision, but he is an influence on the decision. So you have to make sure you are aware of that, and don't only reward the front desk person when you get a referral and forget to say thank you to the office owner or the manager. So again, use your judgment, but really surveys are your best bet for finding these answers. And then lastly, I just want to put a plug in there for having a successful referral game in place for your own staff. Just because your patients are, you know, only come in once for a service, or you don't generally ask them for a referral, doesn't mean that their referrals are unimportant or that they don't matter. So you really should still be asking all of your favorite patients to please tell their family and friends if they ever need your services, that you will be there and provide for them. And your staff can be involved in that, and it's okay to also reward your staff when they bring a family member or a friend, or convince a client or patient to bring in a family member or a friend. Now, one question I get asked quite commonly is, how do I do these surveys? Like, where do I get these people to answer? Well, the most common and the most successful, I should say, way of getting surveys done is to simply do them in person. As patients come in, you have a staff at the front desk, you ask them to fill it out, or to ask them face-to-face in a little interview to answer the questions for you. Those are going to give you your best responses because they give you an opportunity to really dig in deep and find out, get clarity on the answers, etc., and also find out what the emotional tone of the person is. The second best way is to do them over the phone. You can have someone assigned in your practice to call all the general practitioner offices and all of your affiliates and find out, hey, who's the decision maker in your practice, and can I speak to that person? In my experience, when I've done phone surveys, I have found that most offices, they are willing to give you their time for as long as you keep it within 5-10 minutes. I've even done 3 to 5 minute surveys, and they're still super valuable to me, and they didn't waste a lot of time for the other person. So of course, be respectful of people's time when you're doing these. The last and probably the most efficient way to do surveys is over the internet. But again, you have to remember you aren't able to dig in and get clarity on these answers, and you can't really spot the emotional tone from their body language, etc. So sometimes they're not as valuable. So it is still important sometimes to do at least a few over the phone or in person. And then once you kind of get the general feel for what people are saying, you can get a lot of responses on the internet through, posting something up on SurveyMonkey and emailing that out to your email list, or using Facebook groups and dropping it in a local Facebook group like Moms of Omaha, Nebraska, or something of that nature, right? And now, of course, once you've done those surveys, what do you do with the answers? Well, first of all, you want to get at least 30 to 50 responses before you start trying to use those answers, because we don't want just one person's opinion. We want to see what the majority opinion is on a subject. And then lastly, what you do is you tally up the answers and find a percentage, a large percentage, hopefully more than 50% of people who think a certain way. And when we have that majority answer, we use that in the promotion of your referral program. So let's say that the majority of practice owners said that it was the dentist or the doctor themselves who makes the referral. Then of course you would use that in your promotion. And let's say that they said that the thing that they would like the most, maybe 60% of people said that the thing they'd like the most as a referral reward was a cash check. Okay, fine. So that's what you would do. You would, of course, make it an amount that was profitable for your practice. But if that's what people need and want, that's what we want to deliver, because it's going to be the most successful. So there you go. That's my best tips for you on how to do a successful referral program. The last thing I will say is, obviously, this does not preclude doing lunches with GPs. Some practices have found that to be very successful, and I would never say not to do it. But as I said before, not only is the GP not always the decision maker, sometimes it's the office staff who are making the decision of who to refer to, but also it takes them away from their office at a time sometimes where they'd rather be seeing patients. So make sure that you offer it as something that you're willing to do, but don't make it seem like a requirement on both sides that you must do lunches. Instead, you can do we've seen successful open houses where you invite the general practitioners to come and have an event or party at your practice where they can kind of learn all about you and get to know your staff and feel very comfortable referring patients to you because they get their questions answered. You can also do things like contests and games where you go to all of the different practitioners, have a staff person drive out there and drop off, let's say this is the holiday season, right? Drop off a bunch of pumpkins or one pumpkin to each practice and say, hey, the practice that does the best pumpkin carving is going to win some reward from us or something of that nature, just to keep your brand alive in the practice, right? So just anything that you do that puts you in front of them, makes them more aware of you, makes them like you, is going to make your whole referral game, or whole referral program, I should say, more successful. So try to think really outside the box here. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here. You can find me right here on Facebook, you can send me a message, or you can also find me on our website. It's silkenmarketing.site, S-I-T-E. So go ahead and click there now if you want to see more about what I do, and I'm always willing to answer questions for people. I love working with our clients and helping them to build really successful marketing programs for their practices so you can deliver best medicine to your patients. So I hope this is a very helpful webinar to you, and I look forward to speaking to you in the future. Bye for now.